The influence of various cultures on the Philippines can be easily seen and experienced in a lot of ways, from the Spanish influences ingrained in our culture after being a colony for 300 years to the effects of globalization brought about by the technological and artistic influences of the West. Pero ngayon, may isang cultural movement na unti-unti nang nagte-take over sa artistic and cultural taste nating mga Pilipino. At nanggagaling to mula sa South Korea. From gadgets, to films, to TV shows, the Korean wave has entered our global consciousness, and the Philippines has become one of its hotspots. Let's unfold and understand the Korean wave. Before we dive into the Korean wave, tingnan muna natin kung saan ba ito lahat nagsimula. Hallyu, or most commonly known as the Korean wave, refers to the global popularity of South Korea's cultural economy, which exports pop culture, entertainment, music, TV dramas, and films. The start of the wave can be traced after the Korean War. South Korea experienced a period of economic growth known as the Miracle of Han River. Family-owned companies, or chaebols, began to prosper. Because of this, several technology-based chaebols began to rise, such as Samsung, LG, and Hyundai. The South Korean film industry began to prosper as well, pagkatapos ipasa ng national government ng Korea na dapat hati ang exposure ng Hollywood at Korean-made films sa bansa. Hollywood saw the potential of the South Korean market. When the restrictions were lifted in the 80s, Hollywood began to set up distribution offices in the country. This led to Hollywood owning the majority of the movie market. So much so that in 1994, the movie Jurassic Park's ticket sales in the country were greater than the sales of Hyundai automobiles. With a chaebol beaten in the market by sales of a foreign cultural product, and with Western culture's growing influence on the culture of the Korean population, the government saw the potential of popular culture as a product. Taong 1997 hanggang 1998, nagkaroon ng financial crisis sa buong Asia at ang ekonomiya ng Korea ay isa sa mga naapektuhan ng malala. Dahil din dito, kinilala ng buong mundo ang Korea bilang isang pabagsak na bansa. Chaebols began to funnel their resources and stop their expansion to other industries, forcing smaller companies to take over various industries untapped by chaebols. Korea's president at the time was Kim Dae-jung. Bilang tugon sa financial crisis, inatasan ni President Kim ang mga lokal na negosyo na pagtuunan ng pansin ang industriya ng information technology at popular culture. Dahil naniniwala siya na ito ang magiging sagot sa muling pagbangon ng ekonomiya. Their Ministry of Culture set up the Korea Creative Contents Agency and encouraged various chaebols and startups to invest and expand into film and media. His government also started to inject funds into the Korean Film Council. Umaksyon ng iba't ibang kagawaran ng gobyerno upang magkaroon ng pondo ang entertainment industry. At ito mismo ang nagsilbing pundasyon ng paglago ng Hallyu. So, how did the wave arrive in the Philippines? The arrival of Hallyu in the Philippines can be traced to the introduction of Korean novelas in the country. GMA7 debuted the TV drama The Successful Story of a Bright Girl in response to ABS-CBN's successful airing of the Taiwanese drama Meteor Garden. Nagsimulang magkaroon ng malaking impact ang Korean novela sa mga Pilipino nang ipalabas ang Endless Love 1, Autumn in My Heart noong 2003. Ang ending ng palabas na to, kung saan namatay ang dalawang bida, ay bago sa mga mata ng mga manonood, kaya naman nahumaling ang mga Pilipino sa Korean dramas. The series was followed by other successful dramas like Winter Sonata and Stairway to Heaven. ABS-CBN also capitalized on the rising popularity of the genre, airing The Truth and Lovers in Paris. Ang mga palabas naman gaya ng Full House at Jewel in the Palace ay naging dahilan din kung bakit nagpatuloy na sumikat sa Pilipinas ang Korean novelas, which are now known as K-dramas. The popularity of these dramas led to the Philippine media market to localize famous Korean dramas or produce projects with Korean characters and settings, such as Kimidora and Born to Love. This has also led to various Korean celebrities to be integrated to our local shows, such as Sandara Park, Ryan Bang, and Jinri Park. Hanggang ngayon ay sikat na sikat pa rin ang K-drama sa Pilipinas, dahil na rin sa tulong ng iba't ibang mga platforms gaya ng Netflix, kung saan mas lalong naging accessible ang iba't ibang mga K-drama series. The K-pop wave in the Philippines started after the rise of Korean novelas in the country, with the introductions of musical acts such as Super Junior and Big Bang. Ang pag-alis ng lokal na aktres na si Sandara Park sa bansa at ang kanyang pagsali kinalaunan sa Korean girl group na 2NE1 ay naging dahilan din kung bakit lalong sumikat ang K-pop sa Pilipinas. Since then, maraming K-pop artists na rin ang sumikat, hindi lamang dito, kundi sa buong Southeast Asia. K-pop entered the Western consciousness with the release of Psy's Gangnam Style in 2012. It became the first video on YouTube to reach 1 billion views, as well as being its most liked video at the time. Its dance has been parodied and performed by various celebrities and groups, with people finding creative ways to cover the dance. The advent of the internet and its various streaming platforms has given the Korean wave continued growth. K-pop has continued to grow into the global consciousness, so much so that Western artists have integrated some aspects of K-pop into their own art, and some have even collaborated with K-pop acts like Snoop Dogg and Dua Lipa. Ang Netflix at iba pang streaming platforms ay nagsilbing tulay ng Korean films and TV series para dumami pa ang viewers nito at lumagana pa ang mga ito sa iba't ibang parte ng mundo. These companies have also invested in Korean productions to produce projects for their channels. An example of this is Bong Joon-ho's Okja for Netflix. This has also led to global notice and acceptance of the Korean film industry, leading to Bong Joon-ho's Parasite winning a Best Picture Oscar. Eventually, other aspects of Korean culture began to bleed into ours. Clothing, cosmetic products, and food are among some of the cultural products that have integrated into our economy and consumption. We have become more welcoming of Koreans in our population as we began to teach them the English language either online or in person, and our government has given them opportunities to open businesses in our country. But why has the Korean wave continued to work in the Philippines? From the Korean perspective, the Korean wave is successful due to its use of soft power. The concept of soft power was introduced by Joseph Nye in the 1980s. Ayon kay Joseph Nye, mayroong dalawang paraan para maimpluwensyahan ang isang grupo ng tao para makuha mo ang gusto mo sa kanila. Ang una ay ang hard power na ginagawa sa pamamaraan ng pagpilit o kaya naman paghikayat. At ang pangalawa naman ay tinatawag na soft power o ang pag-akit. Soft power can be seen as a political process involving shaping the preferences of others through appeal and attraction. Simply put, South Korea has used its culture by portraying it in an appealing and attractive way. Hallyu is a form of soft power that uses its resources in material culture as a source of cultural diplomacy to achieve its objectives in its foreign policy goals, which we can trace back to its goals in global economic growth, stemming from the Asian financial crisis. Its presentation as an attractive and prospering culture entices global markets to invest or purchase in Korea's other industries, such as technology. Maoobserbahan natin ang paggana nito sa ating bansa sa pamamagitan ng Samsung at LG smartphones and appliances na siya namang sikat sa mga Filipino consumers. Pati na rin ang mga beauty products tulad ng brand na Innisfree. We can even see this on a smaller scale, with Korean groceries and restaurants popping up all over the country. We would not be able to welcome this in our society if we hadn't seen it in our consumption of Hallyu. Ang pagkahumaling natin sa kultura ng South Korea ay maituturing na paglawak ng ating pananaw. Dahil natututunan na rin nating kilalanin ang kultura ng iba't ibang bansa sa Asia. But what makes Korean culture so compelling? It can be traced back to the similarities our cultures have. To start, both our cultural identities were results of colonization. Ang ating naging daan patungo sa kaunlaran ng ekonomiya ay halos pareho lamang matapos nating makamit ang kalayaan. Pareho ring may demokratikong pamahalaan at may mga kontrobersyal na isyong pampulitikal. Both our cultures are known to be hospitable and generous, and we treat familial bonds as important. We can see this with their eating habits that we have adopted once they have opened their restaurants in our country. Gaya na lang ng samgyupsal or Korean barbecue. We have also shared a taste in romanticism and optimism. As time goes on, we see more things we find similar with each other, thus the stronger we latch onto their cultural identity. Another additional cultural influence blending among us, making us flexible in adopting and appreciating other countries' culture and taste.